Hello, everyone. My name is Franklin, and I'm here with Bill.com. We're going to talk about how you can transform your tech stack by essentially automating the AP workflow. So let's get started. So today, I'm going to be your presenter. Again, my name is Franklin Suarez. I've been with Bill.com for quite some time now, and I've been involved with dozens, if not hundreds, of different implementations with other companies, accounting firms. So I'm going to show you how Bill.com can help you and your firm become more efficient and essentially scale for the future. So here's our agenda for today. So I'm going to show you here why use Bill.com with the dynamic products, and then also how Bill.com can work. So we'll review workflow and how our sync, which is the integration between Bill.com and Dynamics, can work, and some considerations with that. And then we'll end it with a quick summary and then next steps. So let's talk about how Bill.com can work together with Dynamics. So why AP automation? And the big question is why now? So today, Bill.com offers a host of different solutions to make the whole entire process of AP done a lot more efficient and with more agility. So when we ask our customers, how much time have you saved by using Bill.com? They usually come back and say, we've saved at least 50% of time on the whole process. We'll talk about the actual process in a little bit, but Bill.com gives you the ability to go paperless, which means you don't have to store documents, in a filing cabinet. You don't have to use, whether it's, papers and checks, for approvals and signatures. You essentially have a cloud storage for essentially all your paperwork. When you move to the cloud, you can then access it anywhere. So you have the ability to go online, go access a browser and computer, or simply download the mobile app, and then you get access to all your bills, your payments. You can approve. You can even take a picture of an invoice on hand and then upload it to the mobile app. And then a huge one here is you're reducing risk. So a lot of people are concerned about the human element of error, transposing a number, wrong payment with the wrong amount, the wrong vendor. So Bill.com helps essentially reduce or eliminate those errors from happening. Then we also have much more security than the traditional model of doing AP. And we'll talk about these things in more detail. The other aspect here is the agility. So you can actually grow your AP as fast as you need to. So if business is booming, you don't have to, essentially add more people to the AP team. The technology will help streamline things so they can scale for the future. So you can build unique workflows without compromising internal controls. You can then have more control by having, an approval routing system that's multi-layered. And that means that you can route things to the right people at the right time. And then you can pivot and respond to scaling the business to new opportunities in the future. Now, a little bit about Bill.com. Bill.com is a leader in the financial automation process. It's a public company. We're listed as Bill, B-I-L-L. Bill.com essentially partners with over 80% of the top US accounting firms. It also has partnerships with leading US financial institutions, banks. And then also in the last 12 months, it's processed over $113 billion for our customers. And we also have a network of 2.5 million members either paying or getting paid inside the Bill.com network. And we're also a preferred partner solution of the CPA.com organization. So let's dig a little bit deeper and actually see how Bill.com can actually help make the AP process in its entirety more efficient and much easier for everyone involved, including your vendor. So first step here is what we call capture. We want to capture all the documents that you have, put them into Bill.com. So vendor invoices, contracts, W-9 forms, quotes, estimates, all these documents that are critical in the AP process can all be loaded up into Bill.com. We have unlimited document storage, and you can upload if you have a digital copy, or you can email in the email from the vendor. You have a dedicated email address for your Bill.com account. So each one of our clients has a unique one. And you can even give this email address to the vendor themselves, and they can email the invoice directly into Bill.com so you can begin processing. So a key thing here is we want that invoice in there. And the reason why is we do two things with it. Number one, we store the document for you on the cloud. You can access it anytime, anywhere. It's organized in a way where you can find it later on, especially for an audit. The second is we use that document to help code the bill for you. So there's certain parts of the bill that are very quick and easy for technology to capture and pre-populate those fields for you instead of you entering those fields. And those would be like vendor name, invoice number, invoice date, due date, total amount. Those things are actually picked up automatically by technology. We call it Intelligent Virtual Assistant, or IVA for short. But essentially, it's going to pick that up, and it's going to help a lot, streamline the whole process of entering the bill. The second step here is the approval workflow. This is where you have control in the system. Someone will create the bill, and then someone different will review the bill. And this could be a department manager, it could be someone in finance, like a manager or something like that, where they review the work of whoever entered that bill. So that accountant gets their work checked. And before payment goes out, the approval step has to be adhered to. So you can have multiple people in here play the role of an approver. You can have essentially one person, 2, 3, 5 people that review the bill. And then once all of them approve it, then it opens up the gate for a different person, a payer, to then schedule the payment on time. So the approvals, again, they can happen on your computer through a browser, or someone can, get their phone, open up the Bill.com mobile app, and review the list of bills that they have assigned to them. They can quickly swipe to the right to approve that particular bill, or if there's something wrong, they can deny it and swipe to the left. You can tap on that bill, check out all the information about it. The supporting document's going to be there, all the bill details, everything looks good. You tap on approve, and it basically goes over to the payer. The payer then comes in and sees, okay, I have a bunch of bills that are approved. So they've been vetted out by the different people in the organization. And now all they have to do is say, okay, let me take these approved bills, select them, maybe adjust some process dates in terms of when you want to process it. Bill.com will give you a recommendation based off the due date, but you can always control that and move the date forward if you want, or move it back. Once that's done, you can make the payment. Bill.com will then process those payments and then disperse the payments to all the vendors. And Bill.com has many different ways of dispersing payments. So by default, we can send a physical check, but with Bill.com's vast network, we can actually tap into vendors that prefer to get paid electronically. So if they're inside the network, we can then automatically hook them up into paying them electronically. And that way you can get the money out faster to your vendor, and then they get a direct deposit experience where they're, instead of getting a check, they get the money directly in their bank account. This reduces their check processing time. We also do international wires as well. So if you need to wire funds over to an international vendor, we can do that too. We support multi-currency, so we can send money in euros or in Canadian dollars, whatever it may be. Then after all this, we've created a couple different records. So number one is we created a bill record. and a payment record in the system. And these two records need to be essentially entered in the accounting software, whether it's Dynamics, Business Central, or if it's Great Plains, it needs to go in there. So what we have is we have a direct integration for Great Plains and Business Central, and we'll sync over the information for you. So if there's a new bill, we'll sync it in, new payment, we'll sync it into Dynamics. If you create a new vendor, the sync actually supports creating a new vendor in Bill.com, pushes it into Dynamics. So no imports that you have to do or downloads. There's no double data entry. That's all taken care of. And it's essentially a click of a button for the sync to be initiated, or we have a once a day sync. So every 24 hours actually syncs for you. All right, so let's talk more about that integration here. So let's look at how Bill.com and Dynamics will play in this blueprint here. So in this blueprint, that actually has the high level, all the tasks that you're going to be doing inside Bill.com, and then layered with the Dynamics products here, whether it's Business Central or Great Plains. So when you create an actual bill inside Bill.com and submit it for approval, that record can sync into Dynamics. So in Business Central, it's going to sync as an unposted purchase order, or Great Plains as a transaction entry. Then in those products, you'll actually post them. So you can post the purchase order, it gets recognized, or the transaction entry in Great Plains. In Bill.com, while the approval is happening, then it passes over to the payment mechanism here. The payer will then schedule a payment. It creates another critical record, a payment record. That then has an opportunity to then sync over. That payment gets created inside Business Central or Great Plains. And then it actually will impact the AP as well. So it's going to close out the AP, posting the bill, the payment inside the accounting software. Once all that's happened, Bill.com then disperses the payment. It actually sends the payment to the vendor. There's even an email that gets sent to the vendor. So if they're getting a check or an ACH, they're getting some kind of communication automatically that says that the payment is on the way and when it's going to arrive. So that's how the integration works. It's essentially a couple different steps here that are opportunities that the sync will be engaged in for the bill record and the payment record. But we'll talk in this next slide here, it doesn't just do syncing of the bill and the payment. It does a lot more than that. So during implementation, we'll actually sync in the chart of accounts from Dynamics over into Bill.com. We sync in other elements in here, like if you're using departments or locations, etc., vendor lists, that's all synced into Bill.com. So some things we have one-way integration, other things we have two-way. And all that means is data flows one way or the other. So nice thing here is, as I mentioned before, you can create a vendor in Bill.com and then sync it over into the Dynamics products. So, and that's by virtue of the two-way integration. So you can create vendors in both systems if you want. It's preferred to do it in Bill.com because that's where you're doing all your AP. So if something gets introduced as a new vendor, then you can just create it in Bill.com very quickly. Another thing to point out here is when we're syncing the actual payments into Dynamics, it's a one-way sync. And so if you're using Bill.com for payments, that's great. The flow is going to work perfectly. But let's say you want to cut a check yourself and hand it to someone in the office. So if you're going to use this other payment method outside of Bill.com, you would still enter that payment inside Bill.com. And there's a method where you can just mark that bill as paid. It doesn't actually make a Bill.com payment. So we can handle those scenarios where if you want to use Bill.com, great. You can use the payment rails through Bill.com, but if you need to make something outside Bill.com, you can also use a check as a one-off, make the record a payment record inside Bill.com, and we'll sync that payment record into Dynamics, and then also credit and post correctly to the correct payment account. Something else here, we do integrate purchase orders into Bill.com. This is only for Great Plains, but essentially we'll talk about this in a couple slides here, but we'll get those purchase orders into Bill.com so that when you're processing AP, we can do some two-way matching to compare the invoice or the bill record while you're entering that record in, and compare it to the purchase order to make sure that things are matching up. We also have integration with the receivables side of things too. So if you want to use receivables, we do support that. We'll sync in your customers. You can create your invoices in Bill.com, sync them into Dynamics. We'll also support payments as well, so your customers can pay you, or you can charge your customers, so we can also move money around like that. So here's a few different considerations when you're using the sync. So a lot of people ask, who can actually make the sync? Who can initiate that? And typically it's going to be an administrator or an accountant role inside Bill.com. They get to initiate the sync. Or if you set up the auto sync, then that's automatically kicked off every 24 hours. So if you sync at noon today and you don't sync anymore manually, Bill.com will automatically sync by noon tomorrow and will catch up all the work that you've done in the meantime. Also, all the sync preferences and the settings, they're all managed in Bill.com. And during implementation, we have a team that will help you throughout the whole process and make sure that when we're syncing, it's all set up correctly, and essentially you're set up for success so that you can move forward and start using the product as intended. So here's some best practices around using Bill.com. So as I mentioned with the capture step, the first step is send in all your documents into Bill.com. It's going to go into the inbox and you can process each document. If it's an invoice that you want to go and make a payment, Bill.com has technology that will help essentially read that invoice and make it a lot more efficient for data entry. And again, we typically see a 50% reduction in the time spent in the entire process. And one of the key components of why that is that technology of helping to pick up all these different data points on the bill and code them automatically for you. That way you don't have to spend time coding line by line. The other thing too is setting up dynamic approvals will help automate the approval assignment. So each bill, depending on the criteria that you have, might be assigned to a different person or different people. So if you can create policies that say, if this vendor or this bill has a particular vendor, or this bill has a particular GL account that I select, or department, etc. So based on a certain criteria I select, it will then follow and adhere to policies I've set up. So maybe if it's vendor A, it'll then put in approver A. If I selected a marketing department, it will then put in the marketing manager. And that's all auto-assigned, and it's the system adhering to those rules or policies that you set up. Therefore, you don't have to go manually select who should approve this particular bill. Because as you know, people can make mistakes, assign it to someone that shouldn't be getting it. Instead of that, we have technology that drives that. And then last part here is just considering the separation of duties. It's very critical to make sure that no one person has the entire control over the system. Meaning, I come into the system, I get to create a bill, approve my own bill, and then pay my own bill. That can never happen within Bill.com. So during implementation, we'll find out exactly who needs to do what, and we'll assign them the appropriate permissions. And ideally, you'll have someone entering the bill, and that's all they do. And then you'll have different people then assigned as approvers, and they'll review the work of the accountant who entered the bill. Once they review it, it might even go to a third person that is a payer in the system. So you're really dividing out all the tasks and spreading out the different permissions so that no one person has the entire control over the system. So let's talk about those purchase orders. This is, again, it's only for Great Plains, but the way it works is Bill.com will sync in purchase order records from Great Plains, and we'll have a dedicated section for those purchase orders, which then enables Bill.com to use technology to pick up on those purchase orders when an invoice PDF is uploaded. So let's say that we uploaded a purchase order. It will then be scanned by the system. It'll pick up the actual purchase order number and then pre-populate information from the purchase order on your bill creation page. And that way you can see that the purchase order might have 10 items of this particular thing. And is the invoice matching that? And then you can actually put in a quantity of the bill to make sure it matches or not. So this way it avoids having to go back and forth between systems to see if it matches, or essentially contact different people to get that information. So this gives you the easy ability to do two-way matching inside Bill.com and not have to go outside of it. So again, with this technology, it just reduces the manual entry. And then also it just enables you to be more accurate so that way, you're not making mistakes. So there's a few ideal customers that we have identified here. And this is, it could be a lot of different situations, but here's a few of them that I've listed out. So it's typically, this works really, really well when customers have a high volume of bills to pay each month. Through the process, you put the entire process onto Bill.com, layered in there, or the approval workflow, the automation of entering those bills, making the payments and not having to cut checks manually. This helps a great deal when it comes to high volume. Also, if you're looking for a robust approval workflow and the ability to track those bills assigned to approvers to make sure that they're doing it on time, this has the ability to then subject certain bills through that robust approval workflow. And then also, if you want to further reduce the manual tasks, we have technology that's going to help with that. It's going to reduce errors. It's going to reduce duplicate AP, reduce the payment entry. So all this is going to help essentially reduce all the manual tasks that you have to otherwise do. And then Bill.com offers a variety of different payment methods as well. So I've mentioned that we have check option, we have ACH option, which we call e-payment. And then we have the ability to do international wires, virtual card payments. So if these vendors are participating in these different payment methods and their preferred way of getting paid, we tap into that and automatically offer that for you. And that way you can pay electronically. So payments go out much faster. And also your vendors, they get payments much quicker with less processing on their side. So it's really a win-win for everybody here. And then also, if you want an integrated AP platform that essentially is a one-stop shop that gives you control over the entire workflow and moves money as well. So Bill.com debits your bank account, disperses all the payments to all the vendors in whatever preferred way that the vendor wants to get paid. You're not having to process those payments manually anymore by cutting checks, signing them, or going to a bank portal to make payments there, or vendor websites and things like that. Bill.com will make those payments to all the vendors. And then finally, we have some resources in here. So after the video, you'll get access to this deck here. And we have sync setup guides and a matrix that shows you exactly how the sync works, in which direction does the integration work, and some best practices as well. And we offer this for Business Central, and also Great Plains. So finally, these are the next steps here. So we actually offer, if you're interested in exploring more options here with Bill.com, we offer a 30-minute product demo that we actually show you exactly, open up the hood and show you exactly what's going on, take you through a test drive. So we have a 30-minute demo there. You can also request a live demo that you can get someone on the line. We can do a Zoom, share screen, and you can ask questions during the demonstration. And if you ever need to contact Bill.com, we have a little section here that you can contact us. And also we offer a risk-free trial. So you can actually test out the product yourself, upload documents, invoices, create bills, create your own approval workflow. You have 30 days to essentially try out Bill.com to see if it works for you. If it does, you can sign up and get to experience Bill.com. And that's pretty much it for the presentation. I want to thank you again for sticking around, learning about Bill.com and how it can make your AP process more efficient. I hope you have a good rest of your day.